Ben, welcome.
Pleasure, Steve. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Peace One Day. Welcome to AI to Peace. We're sharing this platform apparently with 1 million of our closest friends, so no pressure.
No pressure at all.
But perhaps, we have a decent audience today. Perhaps we could start with some orientation. Tell us about your journey. How did you get to this moment?
Yeah, so I think I want to preempt this by basically saying I'm just some guy, right? So following on from all of these amazing guests that you've had on with their illustrious careers in deep in research for AI, they've been in infrastructure for years. I only joined this industry about 12 months ago, and this is just the latest in a long series of extended evolution. So I studied biology at university, graduated in 2013, did the classic student thing, moving to London, thinking I'm going to make an absolute ton of money. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Not yet.
Well, not yet, right? Had to leave London to come back to then see if I could make a bit. But I digress. So left London end of 2015. This was after moving from biology to IT consultancy to commodities broking. Absolutely hated it, right? Doing the finance thing didn't work out for me. Decided I wanted to join the military. So that was 2016, left London, trained for the military, was fortunate enough to be selected for the Royal Marines Officer Training Programme. Wow. So I became 3026-1377 Second Lieutenant Baldieri of RMY 16 for a grand total of 16 weeks. After such point, I ended up getting injured. It turns out I got hips like a Labrador, right? They don't quite sit where they're supposed to. So I got injured during basic, left, no idea what to do with my life. So I did what any reasonable human being with a well thought out plan would do, and I moved to China. This was 2017. So moved to Shenzhen, spent a year in Shenzhen, moved to Shanghai, spent 3 years in Shanghai, 2 years pre-pandemic, 2 years during the pandemic. Got involved in social media marketing, involved in some coaching, had a bout of spine surgery in the middle where I spent a couple of years on all kinds of opiates, just navigating that. Did a master's in blockchain while I was navigating the recovery from surgery. Spent a few years working in the blockchain space and moved over into AI infrastructure. It would have been April last year. So I have worn many hats up until this point. And I mean, this is by far and away the most exciting place that I've been so far. And I can confidently say that with a series of comparisons I think that I can make.
That's incredible. It's like you've lived 1,000 lives and that's just an introduction. Yeah. Okay, so you are now in the world of AI, I guess 12 months hence, I think you
Absolutely.
said. So when I say the words AI to peace, what does that conjure up in your mind?
Yeah, so I mean, AI as a technology from my mind covers two things. You've got the software layer, which people are going to be interacting with on a day-to-day basis, and then you've got the infrastructure layer, right, which is what all of this fantastic stuff is going to be running on. And if we think about from a software standpoint, you have this incredible tool that means that you can basically learn anything just by speaking with it, right? You can get to a pretty good level of competency incredibly quickly. On the infrastructure side, there is so much value that can be created from the physical infrastructure in different places. So data centers are the thing that's kind of having a moment in the sun at the moment. Previously not particularly sexy, but now everyone's talking about it. It's in the context of how much power are these things going to use, and that's obviously a very important consideration. But the amount of value that these massive facilities that can sometimes use the same amount of power as a small city, right, can create in a local area has a massive amount of potential for economic uplift, GDP growth. So then in the context of AI to peace, right? You have this amazing engine for prosperity moving in two directions. You've got this tool that can empower people on an individual basis at the one end, and then at the bottom, you've got this incredible GDP growth engine. And if you combine those two things together, more prosperity, that then leads to more peace. And I think that Pete Hill, a good friend from Kudo, might have said that one earlier, so I'm going to echo his point.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. But I think there's also genuine concern in the market. I'm personally an optimist. I think that the human race has proven many, many times to generally do good with new technologies, and I'm optimistic about the future. But what do you fear about AI? Like, what is it that brings out the cold sweats?
Well, I mean, it's an unknown, right? I mean, every technology that we've created so far has ultimately needed a person to operate it, right? It's required some sort of direct human input. But now with AI, maybe not yet, but in the near future with things like agentic AI, and then whatever comes after that, you have this technology that can operate itself. And if we're no longer in the loop, then there's risks there. There's risks that you can't know because we don't know what we don't know at this point. I think on the other side of that, there's always a risk, as with all technology, that it ends up being just a select few who have an understanding of what the technology is, how to implement the technology, that end up monopolizing how it gets used, how it gets rolled out, who gets access to it. And I mean, that's a massive risk, right? Because you end up entrenching inequality, things can get worse, things end up far outside the control of the average person. But again, going back to the point I made earlier, because we have this tool that can empower individuals on the other side of it, right? There's so much scope for anyone to get involved and develop a pretty good understanding of what's going on just by engaging with the tool itself. So I think it's both a risk if not enough people are using it, but you can manage that risk if enough people are using it at the same time, because then more people can be part of the conversation. More people are invested in its development because they're using it in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, I think we're interviewing Mo Gaudet later on in the sequence, and I think in his book Scary Smart, he postulates that humans are going to be living in the fields and in the forests. I think he says at the beginning of his book. The question is, are we there because we're enjoying the landscape, or are we there because we're hiding from the machines? And I think that's the question that humanity needs to answer as we move forward. So as you think about AI. What do you think about its ability to be harnessed in order to create a more sustainable world so that we end up in the forest for good reasons?
So I think with a lot of technology, it's not accessible to the everyday person. I'm going to keep making this point, right? It's not accessible to the everyday person because they don't understand it. And if you don't understand it, it's difficult to engage with a technology in a meaningful way, which means that you feel as though you can have some sort of impact on the way that it's developing. But because AI lets you get to a level of competence that you otherwise would need university qualifications for, you'd have to study for years, or you'd have to have access to the right networks to be able to get that knowledge. Because the knowledge barrier to entry is now so much lower, you can just do stuff, right? So if you want to do a thing or you want to learn about a thing, then you can use this tool to learn about it. And again, like if you're using these tools on a day-to-day basis and you're implementing them into your daily life, you're building things with them, you're building things for other people with them, the more people that are using these tools, then it no longer becomes just a case of, right, it's one group that's monopolizing what's happening with the technology, where things are going, right? If more people are using them to fix problems for themselves, I guarantee that if you're someone experiencing a problem, there's probably someone else that's experiencing the same problem out there as well, right? So the more of those solutions that we can create and the more people that we can get into the mix creating those solutions too, then I mean, why would you need to hide in the forest, right? Because you're building solutions for your fellow man. And then, I mean, that's a much more exciting future from my standpoint.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I just got back from India, actually. I was a judge in a hackathon, which I found fascinating. There was lots of AI in that event. But one of the things that struck me whilst I was in India is that there are 600 million people in India that lived on less than £600 a year, right? And so how do we make sure that we bring everyone along for the journey and that we don't create even more polarization in society? I think that's going to be very, very important when we think about things on a global scale. So one of the things we love to do at Peace One Day is make sure that our contributors also gain access to the wonderful network that Jeremy and Peace One Day have built. So how can that network engage with you? How do we find you out there in the ether?
Two things. Look me up on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active at the moment. And I've got a newsletter, thegpu.ai. Nice and easy to remember, all one word. I'm just doing my bit to try and keep up with everything that's happening in this space because it is relentless. So hopefully I'll be able to help some other people keep up as well.
We'll definitely do that. I, for one, will do that. And one more question before we wrap up. Resources, books, podcasts, films, content. What would you recommend? Like, what's your go-to? You're learning fast, right? Drinking from the fire hose in 12 months, no doubt. Like, where do you go to get education and inspiration?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for big picture, The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman. AI, biotech, how those things come together. That's really important for big picture context. And then just speak to people in the industry. Just figure out what people are building, what people are up to. Try and speak to people directly. Don't go via the media, because it's better to go to the source, right? So spend as much time doing that as you can, and it won't take too long to build up a picture.
Ben, you've been amazing. Thank you
Pleasure.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Take care.